The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, or AMC, is an Indigenous political organisation. It acts for the interests of all 63 Indigenous nations of Manitoba, playing an important role fighting for Indigenous rights, authority and well-being of Indigenous peoples in Manitoba. Origins of the AMC. The origins of the AMC can be found during the formation of the Manitoba Indian Brotherhood MIB in the 1960s. The MIB was created in response to the systemic discrimination, socio-economic challenges and absence of representation for First Nation communities in policy-making processes. Manitoba wasn't the only one affected by these issues of systemic discrimination, socio-economic challenges or absence of representation. It was a nationwide issue mainly affecting Indigenous peoples. Indigenous leaders of Manitoba desired to form a unified organisation. The organisation was formed to support for policy changes and better representation. In 1971, a policy paper called Wabun, Our Tomorrows. Wabun means beginning in Ojibwe, Anishina Bemoin. The policy paper Wabun, Our Tomorrows, it's a statement by the chiefs of Manitoba on what they wanted in economic development, community development, health and education. I won't go too in-depth on Wabun, but if you like to watch more about it, check this video and link in the description. During the 1980s, the MIB went through membership changes. Therefore, the organisation went under a name change and restructured as leaders discussed the success of a province-wide organisation. Indigenous peoples in Manitoba followed common interest through a variety of bodies at the time. These bodies included tribal councils and regional political organisations. Some included in Manitoba, Kiwatinoi Okemakanak Act for Northern Chiefs and the Four Nations of Confederacy that assembled various southern tribal councils. Eventually in 1988, the AMC was formed as Indigenous peoples in Manitoba adopted a statement of principles of political unity. Basically, the organisation has diverse group interests, so they declare a guide to reach a common goal. Historical development. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs organisation was a prominent voice all over the 90s and early 2000s. The AMC encouraged the progress of Indigenous education, housing, health, justice, child welfare and economic development. An important time in the AMC's history was the organisation's involvement in the Framework Agreement initiative during the 90s. The AMC negotiated with the federal government on this agreement. This agreement was designed to make a process for the recognition and implementation of Indigenous peoples' privileged rights to self-government. In 2007, the AMC eventually dissolved the agreement, stating the federal government did not show interest or support in it. The initiative displayed the AMC's role as a negotiator, able to be up to negotiating complex agreements that affect the governance and independence of Indigenous communities. Throughout the years, the AMC has played an important part in advocating for justice in particular cases of discrimination and violence against Indigenous peoples in Manitoba. For example, the AMC has been voicing for inquiries and reforms related to an MIWG or missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and the disproportion of Indigenous children in the child welfare system. The AMC's efforts reflect the AMC's commitment to address both systemic and immediate worries affecting Indigenous communities. Governance structure. The governance structure, or the system of rules, practices, and processes an organisation uses to direct and control itself, is outlined in the AMC's constitution, which was acquired in 1990 and changed in 2024. The essential to its governance is the Assembly of Chiefs is made up of chiefs from Indigenous nations in Manitoba. They meet annually, and the Assembly works as a political forum and supplies jurisdiction for collective action. Between assemblies, the Executive Council of Chiefs and Grand Chief makes sure that mandates are introduced. The person who serves as the spokesperson is the Grand Chief. They are elected by the chiefs of Indigenous nations in Manitoba, which usually serve 3-year terms. Throughout the organisation's history, there have been several notable Grand Chiefs. Former Grand Chief David Cauchine was Grand Chief of the Manitoba Indian Brotherhood and helped to outline ideological foundations of the AMC during the 1971 Wabun, Our Tomorrows report. Former Grand Chief Phil Fontaine became the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations after serving as Grand Chief of the AMC. Kathy Merrick was a leader in Pimichicoma Cree Nation and community advocate. She was influential in promoting awareness about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, MMIWG, and other social justice issues affecting First Nations communities during her time as Grand Chief of the AMC. Rest in peace to David Courchene and Kathy Merrick. Also, Phil Fontaine was recently accused of sexually assaulting a student during the 1970s. I just thought it was worth mentioning. Political role and influence. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs carries a notable political part in both nationally and within Manitoba. The organisation's main mandate is to advocate for Indigenous rights, independence and interests, which is accomplished through different means, which include public campaigns, negotiation with government entities, and lobbying. On a provincial level, the AMC interacts with the Manitoban government on essential issues to discuss topics on which include resource management or health services. The AMC highlights the importance for policies that regard and respect treaty rights and to focus on the well-being of Indigenous communities. The organisation has voiced recommendations for resources to address unfair health due to economic or environmental disadvantages and the need for culturally relevant accessible healthcare services. On a national level, the AMC takes part in the work of the Assembly of First Nations. The AMC supplies resolutions to the AFN from AMC chiefs in Assembly. Both AMC and AFN collaborate with other regional Indigenous organisations that push for policy changes which are related to education, child welfare reform, and self-governance. And that does about it for this part. Let me know if you guys learned something new or thoughts about this video. There are going to be 9 more parts in this mini-series. Once completed, all the parts will be released in one big compilation. I had quite the fun editing this video. These kinds of videos of mine take quite a bit of time and dedication to make, so consider subscribing. It's free and it helps out a bit. Thanks for watching.